Hello and welcome to Medicare Madness, where we aim to cut through the myths and the pitfalls of Medicare to help you supercharge your career in senior services and final expense. My name is Peter Walker. I'm the National Sales Director for Medicare for Equita Final Expense Services, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, Cole McCoy, who's a Regional Director up in the Midwest for Medicare and Final Expense with FS Final Expense Services. Cole, how are you today, buddy? Is it cold up there in Ohio?
It is chilly, man, but I'm hanging in there, buddy. What's going on, Mr. Walker?
It's time for another episode, and as always, we leave it up to you to kind of introduce our topic. So, what do you have? What do you have for us today, mate?
Yeah, so today, Peter, we are going to talk about Medicare supplements. And this is a topic that we don't talk about a whole lot just because we're typically in front of lower income folks who are more often than not looking at Medicare Advantage plans for a few reasons. However, there are a lot of opportunities with Medicare supplements and prescription drug plans. And so we definitely wanted to go over those with y'all today so you knew, at least had some basic info, and we could kind of put another tool in your toolkit so you can go out ready to sell and help your clients. So let's get into it, Pete. I mean,
Yeah, without a doubt, man. As you know, I travel all over the country and into a lot of markets. Sometimes I'm in inner cities and sometimes I'm out in the country, and really depending on where you work, you're going to see more or less of one product or the other. And what we train here at Equita is not to choose. We're not choosing for the client, saying, "Hey, Mary, we've got some fantastic Medicare Advantage programs to show you." What we do is we go and we meet with the people and we consult them, and we present them with opportunities, based on where they live and kind of what their income and so forth is. In the United States, there are currently 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every single day of the year. I mean, that's just a staggering number. And to add on to that, by 2035, which is just 15 years from now, more than half of the population will be over the age of 65. So,
oh my
assuming
goodness.
no, yeah, I mean, assuming no changes to Medicare in that time, in other words, the dropping of the age or anything like that, you literally have a 50% increase in the size of the pool that we're talking about. And as you said, Cole, Medicare supplements do suit some people. A lot of people, think that a Medicare Advantage policy is a med sup, and it's just not. So, why don't you give us kind of the overview, the difference between a med sup and a Medicare Advantage plan?
Yeah, so a Medicare supplement is a scenario. Well, really, when you're talking, I guess we should compare a little bit between Medicare supplement and Medicare Advantage. So, a lot of us know Medicare Advantage. It's usually a lower premium plan. Um, the more enticing ones are the zero premium. Those are the ones you see advertised a lot. People get excited when they think they're getting insurance for nothing. But if you do any kind of study where you're looking at the lifetime out of pocket cost, Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage are actually right about the same. It's just where you're paying your money. So for a Medicare supplement, it's front loaded in premium most of the time. And depending on the plan you get, you're paying more premium. But for that premium, you don't really have to deal with copays as extensively as you will with the Medicare Advantage plan when it comes to doctor or hospital visits.
So
Um,
your out of pocket is more predictable. Is kind of what you're saying,
it's
right?
way more
You can
controlled.
kind of budget your healthcare expenses.
Exactly.
Each and every year, you'll know exactly what you're going to pay, at least for
Yes.
your
Yes.
health care, not your
Yeah.
drugs. Okay.
And with a Medicare supplement, it's unless you just turned 65 and you get a guaranteed issue period, it does have underwriting. And so if you're past that initial enrollment period, you do have to put folks through underwriting. And so sometimes people do get trapped where they got out of a med sup and they have to do Advantage. Um, so it really just depends on income. What can folks afford monthly and where they want to pay. And so that's kind of something you balance and you educate the client to both and let them choose and then kind of go from there. So I hope
Well,
that
yeah. I mean, I, I, I
that's
will
a
just say
basic
there's
overview at least.
yeah, there's a so I just want to make a distinction here. You said the guaranteed issue period when you first turn 65. That's actually known as the Medicare Supplement Open Enrollment Period, which starts 6 months before your 65th birthday and ends 6 months after the month of your 65th birthday, assuming you are getting your A and B as most people do when they turn 65. What that allows you to do is you're able to enroll in any Medicare Supplement, Medigap plan in your state without underwriting. Now, there is also, not to be mistaken with the open enrollment period, there's also a guaranteed issue period for various cases. So you may be 68, you had creditable coverage with your job, and you are now losing that insurance. That would get you a guaranteed issue period where you could get a Met up without underwriting. But outside of certain specific opportunities like that, people 66, 67, 68 and older, if they want to change from a med sup to another med sup in order to save money, they have to go through underwriting. So talk to us a little bit about underwriting. And I know you've written quite a bit of med sup in your career. Um, how does it differ? How is it the same and how does it differ from final expense?
Well, I look at it as very different, Peter, unless they have a guaranteed issue period where you don't have to ask health questions. But with final expense, the only underwriting question right now is, do you have end stage renal disease, which that's going away next year
No,
anyway.
no, no, no.
So,
I'm not talking about Medicare Advantage. I'm talking
no,
about
I
final
understand.
expense.
Yeah, I
Okay.
understand. And so that's really the only question you get with Advantage. But then when you're looking at a supplement, I mean, it's very similar to looking at like a final expense application where they ask about cancer, heart attack, stroke, diabetes. They're asking all these questions, and so you really have to know your underwriting or at least have a tool to help you navigate some of the companies. And just like with life insurance, final expense, there are companies that have niches where you can, if someone has diabetic issues, you might throw them here versus something else. So you do have to do some underwriting, looking at medications and things. At times can be a little challenging, but not too bad once you do it a few times.
Well, yeah, and I think specifically for the people that you and I work with on a daily basis, I'm talking about agents in the field. The majority of people that we work with and we coach are accomplished final expense agents. When I say accomplished, they are successful in the sense that they've made a career out of it. They're able to survive on the income that they have, and by the time you get to that point in final expense, you are pretty much a guru as far as underwriting is concerned.
Hmm.
And when you're underwriting for a Medicare supplement, you're underwriting for morbidity and illness, whereas when you're underwriting for a final expense policy, you're underwriting for mortality. And when you look at a lot of these applications, it's amazing how similar they are. And you're already seeing the same drugs. You're seeing the insulins. You're seeing the blood pressure medications. It's actually very interesting to me how similar the two underwritings are. So, and I would encourage people, if you're going to get into MedSup world, I know that the majority of agents that I see out there are drawn towards the T65s. In other words, the people that are going to turn 65 here in the next few months, and they just mail the hell out of them. And it's just kind of a quantity over quality, because they know if they get somebody interested that's turning 65, that there is no underwriting. So it's simple. So I would challenge all of you final expense agents who want to get into this, learn the underwriting, because that gives you significant advantage over what the rest of the field does. Now, what does Medicare Supplement not cover, as opposed to what a Medicare Advantage plan will cover?
Yeah, so with the Advantage plans, they're going to cover things like silver sneakers and items such as um, post stay meal programs or 24-hour nurse helpline or over the counter benefits, like at a pharmacy for bandages or mouthwash or vitamins or things like that. The Advantage plans are throwing in some of those extra benefits.
And
Um,
dental and vision and
yeah,
hearing
yeah. It
and
just depends on the plan.
transportation.
With the
Yeah,
supplement,
yep.
it's very vanilla, very plain, but it's exactly what you're going to pay. It's very standardized. So for instance, if you see a Plan G is covered the exact same with X company as it is with Z company. The only difference is the amount of money that they're paying once they're in the plan. As far as premiums go. So it's just for your standardized Medicare covered medical costs, whereas the Advantage plan is throwing in some extra things. Um,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
let's step back a little bit and kind of go a little bit more in depth. So the way a Medicare supplement works is when you get your Medicare Part A and your Medicare Part B. If you're listening to this episode, you probably already have some knowledge, a good knowledge on how Medicare works. Your Part A covers 80% of your hospital expenses, and your Part B, in short, covers about 80% of your physician's expenses. The other 20% over on top of that is up to you to cover out of your own pocket. So that's where MedSups, Medigap plans, as well as Medicare Advantage plans come in. How do you cover that extra 20%? Now, with a MedSup, Medicare A and B are your take the initial brunt of a bill. So if you go out and see a doctor and it's $200 bill, Medicare will pay 80% of that. So the MedSup sits on top and works in conjunction with original Medicare and pays the other 20% in most cases if you have a Plan F or a Plan G. And we'll break that down for you in a little bit. MedSups are standardized products with letters A through N. So you'll see where you've got your original Medicare card and it says Part A and Part B. And MedSups are broken into plans. So you have Plan A through Plan N. And that's really the big difference where with the Medicare Advantage, your A and B are essentially taken over by a private company and they meter out your healthcare. And obviously, the downside with that is you're in a network and you're limited to the size of that network. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because we know that a lot of these folks don't travel, and even the ones that do, there's always coverage for emergencies and so forth. So it really comes down to who you're dealing with. What are their specific needs. Um, as you said, all these plans are standardized. So a plan F with Mutual of Omaha is going to be exactly the same as a plan F with Transamerica. That cannot do anything less than the other company does. But the big gap here that you need to understand is that the premiums can vary tremendously. So you might run into a 75-year-old that's been on a med sup with a company for 10 years and they're paying $300-400 a month. And when you do your lookup, you'll find that, oh my God, I've got Humana has got a plan F for $170 a month. If that person is able to go through underwriting and qualify for that plan, they can switch at any time of the year. And all you need to explain to them is that there is absolutely no difference between the two carriers. And interesting, Humana actually with their Medicare supplement. I don't know if you know this, Cole, and I recently found this out. They offer silver sneakers
yeah, that's
for
becoming
for
more common.
free.
That's becoming more common.
Yep,
There's a few carriers that will offer silver sneakers. Just they're trying to get some of that Advantage business back, where people were
absolutely.
liking that gym membership feature, and so there's a couple carriers here in Ohio that do that. Medical Mutual
I think
does
it's
that, and
I think it's I think it's great. Yeah, and they also Humana also offers those post hospital stay meals programs as well as 24-hour nurse lines, which a lot of Medicare supplements will not do. So just a quick overview of the plans. Give us just a quick overview of the difference between a Plan F, a Plan G and a Plan N, which
Are the
quite
three
honestly,
common
for the
ones?
most part,
Yeah.
is the most common ones. We don't need to get into HDFs or anything like that because
Yeah.
I just don't think you're going to be writing a lot of that.
Yeah.
To go over the differences with us real quick, Cole.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Those are the three main ones that you'll see in the field. Every now and then you'll see one like letter A, or you'll see an old C plan once in a while. But your three most common ones are the N, the G, and the F. I will say that the F plan is the simplest to explain. It's the highest premium, but there's no deductibles, and anything medically speaking, you have zero copay. However, the F plan, I believe next year is no new F plans can be sold. And so what's going to happen is the folks who already have an F plan, they can keep them. However, because there's no new premiums coming in to that pool of people, it's something called adverse selection. As folks start getting sicker, the premiums are going to get higher and higher, and some people may be trapped in those F plans. So just something to educate your clients on.
Yeah,
If you
they're getting
see,
older. They're
yeah, yeah,
grandfathered in. So
yeah,
you know, when you get older, you're not going to get healthier,
exactly.
and
And when there's
average age is
no,
going to go up.
yeah,
Bam.
and when there's no new premiums coming in to offset the cost of the older, sicker people, that pool of people just starts getting exponentially more expensive. So just make sure that you can explain that to your clients, because the only difference between the G plan and the F plan is the G plan. It's usually $30 to $40 less per month. But for instance, this past year, how it works is um, the Part B deductible was $183. And so the only thing the G plan does not cover is that $183 deductible. Now, if so, that's 183 bucks. The difference between the G plan and the F plan in cost is usually 360 to $480. So if you can educate your clients, some of them like it to be clean. They don't like to worry about the deductible, and they'll just pay the extra 30 bucks a month. But if you show them, look, you're paying 360 or $400 for something that only costs 183, usually the G plan will make more sense. And I think that's why the F plan has been transitioned and going away in the future. So that's a G plan. It's almost identical to the F. It's just the G plan does not cover that $183 deductible. Now,
Yep,
um,
that's correct.
then you have the N plan. N is in Nancy, and it is basically for all your hospital expenses. It's going to be covered. Everything's going to be covered with zero copay. You just pay copays when you go to the doctor, usually $20 most of the time. Some up to 50 though. It's $20 to $50
No,
for
it's up to 20 for a physician's visit,
yeah.
whether it's a specialist or a PCP, and up to $50 when you go to the emergency
Right,
room.
right,
Now,
right, right.
so quite often doctors won't even charge you that 20, but you will pay $50 if you go to the emergency
Exactly,
room.
exactly.
That's
So
right.
yeah, and then your hospital visits and the more serious issues are covered. And so the end plan, depending on age, I mean, a lot of times 80 to $100, sometimes less. And then as you get older, it goes up. The G plan usually is 100 to 120 to start out, depending on age and male, female. And the F plan, um, getting a phone call.
Yeah, sorry. Carry on.
Jeez, Peter, interrupting the
Yeah,
flow.
it never ends.
No, I hear
Yeah,
you.
well, I'm going to interrupt you on this because so you're talking about the cost of the plans 100 to 120. That is in Ohio.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Every
was
state's
just
different.
in absolutely. I was in Florida for the week, and these plans are significantly more expensive.
Same with Minnesota.
So yep. So
Yeah.
it really depends on where you go to get this
Yeah. I
stuff. So
sometimes forget that I'm not talking to Ohio agents. I'm talking to agents all over
yeah,
the place.
yeah. So I'm just back to the end. So an end, you pay up to $20 when you see a doctor, and you pay up to $50 when you go to the emergency room.
Hmm.
On average, N is about $20 a month cheaper than a G, regardless of where you are. So you're looking at $240 a year. And if you don't go to the doctor very often, let's say you go twice a year, you're saving $240 in premium. You go twice a year, you pay $20. You've still got an additional $200 in savings.
Hmm.
The one thing that you do need to let people know about and make them aware of is that the end plan does not cover excess charges. Are you aware of how the excess charges work, Cole?
Yes, it's so basically a doctor, there's what Medicare will agree to pay. And sometimes you'll have doctors that will say, well, I'm charging more than what Medicare is agreeing to pay. And so those are excess charges, above and beyond what Medicare pays. That's the amount of money the doctor wants. Now, in some states, excess charges aren't even legal. So just pay attention to that. And if that's something that folks are worried about, just make sure you know how your state is ruling on that.
Well, yeah. So excess is when a doctor agrees to start taking Medicare patients, he's accepting Medicare assignment, and what that is just a menu of possible procedures and things that he can charge for. So, in short, when somebody goes in, let's say Medicare says, well, we're going to let all Medicare doctors charge $1,000 for an appendectomy. That is the going rate, and that's what you can bill Medicare for an appendix. If a doctor is in an area where, let's say, it's New York or New Jersey, and their expenses are significantly higher, they are able to charge an excess. The excess fee can be no more than 15% of the Medicare assigned rate. So, in the case of a Plan N, if you go and have that appendectomy, and you see a doctor that wants to charge excess, he can charge $1,000 plus the excess fee of $150. So $1,150 for a procedure that would normally cost $1,000. With a Plan N, you would be liable for those excess charges. But in general, if a doctor charges excess for any procedure, he has to notify the patient of the excess fee. So again, you explain this and make it very simple to these people, and just make sure that you give them all this information when you're writing the policy. And I will tell you, excess, man, I think it's less than 5%, 4 or 5% of doctors in the United States charge excess for anything. So when I run into people, Cole, if they're on a Plan F, Medicare Supplement people tend to be more reluctant to move their policies. And quite often what I tell them is, listen, do your research, look it up, call me back. In fact, quite often I run into people that are with a company. They may be with Transamerica or they may be with Humana. They're with a company that I represent. And in that case, it's a lot easier to say, look, I understand you with Humana and I understand they've paid everything for you. But what I'm going to suggest to you is not to move your company. I'm just suggesting you move your product. Because in those kind of changes, you will become the agent of record. That is your business. So, the other way to approach it, and I think it's way more powerful than just trying to convince people to change their Medicare supplements. And I might add, you don't need to have a scope of appointment. This is a conversation. If you come into a house and you strike out on your final expense sale, or you make a sale and you find out through conversation that the person is on a Medicare supplement, you can compliantly and legally go straight into a med sup sale, and you can even make it before you leave the house. You can sell a FE and a med sup in the same sitting without any of the Medicare Advantage nonsense that you got to deal with. But what I find more powerful generally to speak to them about is not approaching the med sup, it's approaching the cost of their drugs, because truly that is the difference maker in most of these cases. And I know a lot of agents that just don't sell Part D drug plans, and truly what that comes down to is just laziness. Because once you help somebody save money on their drugs, you've gained that trust, as you should, and you can roll that conversation into a med sup conversation, or you can roll it into a Medicare Advantage conversation. Now, Cole, just go over the requirements for talking about a PDP.
Yes, so CMS this past year made it a little bit easier for us, saying that you need to talk specifics about a PDP or MAPD. The same rules apply. Is that you have to separate it? You have to separate the appointment, and so to play it safe, what I like to tell my agents is get a scope signed, set up an appointment for the next day or a couple of days later. just to cover your you know what. Um, Now, technically, you can set up a separate appointment for the same day if you want, but it has to be separated and it has to be very clear it's a separation from a final expense sale. And so, what I would do, how I would phrase that, just to keep it very simple. Say, hey, Miss Mary, there's more than likely some savings we can help you with on your Medicare. I can't go into specifics because we just did this final expense. We have to do a separate appointment. So I just got to have you sign a form that says I have permission to come back and speak with you on that, and we'll get that scheduled here in just a moment. So pull out the scope. I would have them initial the MAPD and the PDP, whatever that might come up, just to be safe. And so they agree to talk about it and then set up the appointment. However you prefer to do that, it just has to be separate.
Yeah, and you have to understand that the same rules apply. You are not able to change somebody's PDP outside of the annual enrollment
Mm-hmm.
period unless
Mm-hmm.
there's a specific SEP for them. So, in other words, you're looking for the same things that we discussed in the last episode, special enrollment periods. If they have extra help, if they have Medicaid, that kind of thing, that gives you the opportunity to speak to them about changing their PDP. And if they don't have an enrollment period because they're a med sub client, in many cases these people have a lot more money, you can have them sign a permission to contact and give them a ring in October and go and discuss their PDP with them. But yeah, it's important to realize that in almost every single market, there's almost 30 PDPs available, and most of these people did not sit down with somebody knowledgeable, did not enter all their medications in, did not find the company that's going to be the best for them. And we don't carry all the companies out there. But I will tell you this, the PDPs that we have are generally the national carriers like Humana and Aetna and UHC and Cigna. And there's some fantastic cost savings available
Yeah, and
with those.
and I'll add to that too, Peter. If you have the ability to look and see which PDP is most effective for the client, and if there's one that you don't offer that that is head and shoulders above everything else, like maybe there's a medication they're covering that is different, put them in the right plan. You can get a number, have them call, do the right thing for the client. It's going to go a long way. And just that business, you're just going to have to keep up on, have them call direct or something. There are numbers to where you can have them call. They can sign up over the
You can
phone.
enroll. You can
Yes,
enroll online
but I want to be
at
clear. I
Medicare.gov.
want to be
Yep.
clear on that. Don't put them in a plan that's not most effective for them. You have to be willing sometimes to, no, PDPs don't pay a ton anyway, but it's got to be about what's best for the client. And
Well, yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Listen, it's like final expense, right? If your PDP is $2 a month more expensive than a PDP that you don't have, I would just say to them, look, I have, there's this plan from, Joe Blow PDP. Your man is going to cost you about $2 a month extra. I can enroll you in your man, or you can enroll yourself in Joe Blow's PDP. But either way, it's going to save you, whatever
yeah,
it may be,
yeah.
$70 a
That
month. And
$2 savings isn't as much of a big deal. But when you're talking $500 to $1,000, most people
absolutely,
would want to know about that. So,
absolutely. If you direct somebody to a place where they can save $1,000 a year and you're not getting a commission on it, big deal. Because now you've got a client that's got $1,000 in their pocket, and there's a reason why you're in the house in the first place. Remember, they sent that card in. So, but I will tell you, don't sniff at PDPs. If you sign somebody up that's never been on a Part D drug plan, you get a $74 initial commission. That is a flat, standardized commission across all PDPs, and then you get $37 annually thereafter. So, it's quite easy to write 50 to 100 PDPs in a year, speaking to as many people as we speak to. And you write 100 PDPs, that's $7,400 and $3,700 a year in renewals. Thank you very much. And it's just a great way, to gain the client's trust and make them your client for life. I always tell agents, whether I can help somebody in the house or not, I'm going out of my way to make that client mine. They may not pay me for 2 years, but they're going to call me with all their questions. And there is going to come a time when they're going to need a product or something that I have, where I will get paid on them. So it's just, the PDP thing is a huge opportunity, and the real reason for that is that agents just don't want to do it. So, Cole, do you have any other topics or anything you want to talk about,
No,
from here
I
on?
mean, I think one thing that I will talk to y'all about. And we probably say this on every episode, but if you're trying to figure out something with someone's MedSup, please call us. There's a lot of things that you can take advantage of that you may not recognize, and it doesn't hurt to ask. And we're available. We want to help you. Um, there's a lot of business that you can go and get that maybe you were leaving on the table before. So do yourself a favor, kind of dig into this a little bit. It does pay off in the long run once you start getting those renewals and you add to that client base, and so it's a wonderful opportunity.
All right. Well, Cole, why don't you give us your digits, man, and your email address in case anyone wants to reach out directly to you and ask for more information?
Yep. Email Cole, Cole, at finalexpenseservices.com. You can text or call me at 419-961-6310. Day or night, I'm happy to help. Y'all have a great week.
Thanks, Cole. And again, my name is Peter Walker. I'm the National Sales Director for Medicare with Equita Final Expense Services. And my email address is p.walker@equita1.com. My phone number is 818-201-6979. And again, whether you are contracted elsewhere or you're contracted with us, you're more than welcome to contact us, regarding your Medicare. And so with that, Cole, we look forward to the next episode. I appreciate your time today, man. Stay warm. Thanks, everybody.